no FDA-approved uses for kratom, a tree that's native to Southeast Asia. Despite that, the controversy surrounding the use of kratom has skyrocketed in the last decade. MTN's Matt Holzapfel takes a deep dive into the presence of the plant in Montana and whether there's cause for concern.
There's a lot we don't know about kratom, so let's start with what we do know. We begin 8,000 miles away. Indigenous to Thailand, Indonesia, and other Southeast Asian countries, kratom is legal in 44 states, including Montana. Users and activists claim that the plant can be used to relieve acute and chronic pain and can serve as an alternative to opioids. Let's pause for a moment and go back to 2009.
In 2009, there was a cluster of 9 deaths in a 12-month period in Sweden that were attributed to the consumption of a powdered kratom product called Kratom. And so that got the attention, appropriately, of every public health official in the world, so some countries banned it. In the United States, the FDA decided that they were going to issue an import alert, which they did in 2012.
2 years after those deaths were reported, members of the National Board of Forensic Medicine in Sweden published a case report concluding that the addition of O-desmethyltramadol to powdered kratom leaves contributed to 9 unintentional deaths. Kratom is one of the substances that the American Kratom Association is concerned about. Because kratom is not regulated by the FDA, the association says that adulterated versions of the plant, like Kratom, can give pure kratom a bad rap. But the wheels were already in motion. The Food and Drug Administration asked the Drug Enforcement Administration to schedule the 2 primary alkaloids in kratom.
That led to an outcry from the kratom-consuming public. There were 51 members of the U.S. House of Representatives, 26 Republicans and 25 Democrats who wrote a letter to the DEA objecting to the scheduling recommendation and disputing the scientific basis for it.
The debate on scheduling has many outspoken voices in Montana as well.
There are businesses within Great Falls that sell this. We haven't had a problem, at least with any of those businesses, as far as any illegal activity.
I mean, that's part of the problem is, right now the kratom has been on the DEA's radar to, make this Schedule 1 controlled substance for some time. And we're worried about if that occurs, which there are certainly some people who believe that it should, that's going to add a market for it that is going to impact the law enforcement community.
Dr. Deborah Rose is an addiction medicine specialist at Benefice. She says that one of her biggest concerns with kratom is the lack of regulation.
I in favor a lot of botanical products and as alternatives to typical medications or over-the-counter things. But there are manufacturing standards with those products, or at least the ones that I personally use and recommend.
And that's actually something that both sides agree on.
It's not something that needs to be interdicted by law enforcement, and it ought only to have a regulatory pattern that allows for interdiction of products that are unsafe because they're adulterated with dangerous substances.
Regulation would also help law enforcement officials whose current relationship with kratom lies in a bit of a gray area.
With kratom being kind of an unregulated thing and an unknown on a lot of its properties and how it works, we have to still pay attention to all the things that are there, and there's always a concern with what we deal with.
The National Institute on Drug Abuse concluded that kratom might cause dependence, which means users could feel physical withdrawal symptoms when they stop taking it. According to the NIDA, some users reported withdrawal symptoms including insomnia, muscle aches, and changes in emotion after stopping kratom use. A 2004 study published by Johns Hopkins Medicine found that more than one of those symptoms overlapped with caffeine withdrawal. The only other thing that people seem to agree on is that further research that could lead to potential regulation of kratom could be beneficial.
We want to make sure that the people are educated that it's out there, that there are properties on it, and the information that is on the internet and any of the studies that are there, it's a wide piece. So there's a lot of work still to be done.
When it comes to these synthetics, because they're constantly changing and evolving, this lack of quality control, we really have no idea what effect these chemicals have on a person's body, on their brain.
I would say not only testing, but also some standardization in manufactured products. How do the two stack up to one another?
What we need is a good regulation to ban the adulterated products. The research is important. We need to look to see if kratom can be formulated in a way that where it can be a physician-supervised therapy as an alternative to using prescription medications for people that are entrapped in the addiction cycle.
People will disagree all day about the uses of kratom, its potential for addiction, and whether or not it's safe in any dosage. The bottom line is that with each study you read and each person you talk to, they'll all include the caveat that further research is needed to determine the role that kratom should play in our society. If the FDA does more studies and concludes that kratom should be illegal nationwide, so be it. If they do those studies and determine that in certain doses, with the proper regulation, kratom can play an important role in the pharmaceutical industry, so be it. But people agree. Do the research. Matt Holzaffel, MTN News.